42. You know, the damage that's been done to the formerly known as the Empire State and the city once known as the Big Apple, the city that never sleeps, that has been done to those two entities by Governor Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Bill de Blasio has been almost immeasurable. I mean, it's just such a disaster. And now there is a book out. It's called Dumb and Dumber, How Cuomo and de Blasio Ruined New York. It just came out. It's written by Matt Palumbo, and it seemed like it was an appropriate topic, considering the devastation that's being wreaked, and also the fact that the Republicans in Congress today are saying, "Well, you want to deplatform Fox, Newsmax, OANN, but you don't want to deplatform CNN for letting them get away with almost literally murder, with the brother of the governor sucking up to his older brother, Andrew Cuomo, Fredo Cuomo, sucking up to baby Doc Cuomo, night after night after night, and then refusing to cover this bombshell report that they covered up all the deaths in nursing homes, thousands of deaths in nursing homes. And of course, de Blasio, well, it's worth your life to go onto the subway again. It's probably worse than the 1970s. Anyway, joining us now on the line is Matt Palumbo. Thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Howie.
You know, I've had this discussion with Mark Simone on WOR in New York. Who do you think is the greatest menace? The greater menace? Is it Cuomo or de Blasio? Who's done more damage? I guess that's a better way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, the other version of the question I get is which is dumb and which is dumber. And, it depends. I certainly think, de Blasio could be more dangerous in the sense that I think he is dumber. I think he's the one driven by ideology and just kind of goes based off that instead of reality. Cuomo, on the other hand, well, obviously we're no fan of his policies. I think he's much more aware of what he's doing. He's much more calculated. And, we're learning in recent weeks, exactly the kind of guy he is, how he's been threatening journalists and deliberately suppressing information. So,
and legislators, members of his own party.
Yeah, so it's like de Blasio is more, stupid, dangerous. Cuomo is more calculated, dangerous. Though I would say I think de Blasio is probably a little bit worse.
On the other hand, de Blasio is term limited. He's gone at the end of this year. Do you think Cuomo will try to run for yet another term?
I think so. I mean, probably for ego, if nothing else. And, when it comes to the whole nursing home scandal, the consequences are really, they're going to be as big as the media allows it to be, because we're learning, quote unquote learning. Most people are hearing about the nursing home scandal for the first time now, because the New York AG really dropped that report exposing how they're undercounting deaths. So then, obviously we learned about all those other, about him threatening journalists and all that. But, all the info I was coming off of in the book was from, close to 8 months ago. And it's really only now we're learning about it because the media is finally reporting on it. So, if they keep up on it, hopefully, it'll ding his chances. But, even as New York was the worst state in the nation in terms of coronavirus deaths, he had an approval rating of something like 76 or 77%, which was an all-time high. And it wasn't because of reality. It was just because the media painted this picture that he was the one governor in the nation that had to figure it out. And obviously that was never the case.
Yeah, you know who I think has a lot to answer for New York City is Carlos Danger, Anthony Weiner, because he probably would have been the mayor if he could have kept his pants on. I mean, let's be honest about it. Yeah. And as bad as he would have been, he would not have been nearly as bad as de Blasio, would he?
No, yeah, I was going to say he somehow would have been an improvement. Yeah, it's a depressing thought.
The other thing too is, and again, this is a recurring theme with this hearing going on today about how they've got to shut down conservative media, and because they're spreading disinformation. And yet the fact is that the mainstream media, when the Hunter Biden laptop came to light, they refused to cover it. So they were providing disinformation by omission, by not reporting on it. And to a lesser degree right now, the same thing's going on with Cuomo, because the other media in New York are not reporting his horrible stewardship of the state response to COVID-19, like the New York Post is. The same newspaper that broke the Hunter Biden laptop story and then had to have it censored or sat on by the rest of the media is now reporting on Cuomo, and to a lesser degree, the media's given it a good leaving alone once more, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I always see censorship and attempts at it as a sign of defeat. My position has always been that the answer to bad ideas is good ideas, not censorship. And if they really thought we were spreading conspiracies or falsehoods, they would just simply rebut them. In fact, it wouldn't be very difficult to do, and they can make us look like fools. But the fact that they're just trying to censor us outright shows they know there's an element of truth, or what we're saying is just plain true.
What does de Blasio do next?
It's tough to say. He is, Cuomo at least still has a relatively high approval. He's at about 56% right now. He was obviously in the 70s. De Blasio is, in researching the book, he was probably one of the most universally detested politicians I've come across. In fact, for every point, right-wing talking point I make against him in the book, there was, an equal and opposite left-wing talking point to try to discredit the guy. So I'm not really sure. It's kind of hard to say. All I can say is I'm happy I'm not him.
Yeah, but why do they hate? I mean, I know they hate each other because they're I guess because they're two peas in a pod. But what's the genesis of their feud?
That I'm actually not entirely sure of. I think it's just some general rivalry between the governor and the mayorship. But yeah, I actually don't dive into any of that, unfortunately.
But I don't think it's, like if you go back over the years, whoever the mayor was and the governor, they at least had on the superficial public level, they had a cordial relationship, right? Like Giuliani and Pataki. I think they weren't death enemies. I don't even think if you go all the way back to Lindsay and Rockefeller, I don't think they were. I mean, they may have been rivals, sort of, but they didn't publicly despise each other. I mean, could de Blasio jumped on Cuomo so fast after it came out last week that he'd been bullying this assemblyman Ron Kim? It was almost unseemly. As much as I dislike Cuomo, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I guess it leads me to believe that Cuomo was probably acting exactly that way to de Blasio behind the scenes. And the fact that they both can't stand each other just kind of backs up what we think about them. We can't stand them, and neither can they. Sometimes I fill in on WOR, and I always ask for people to call in who've moved out of New York, and suddenly the lines are almost overwhelmed. And I get the feeling that most of the people who elected Rudy, who elected Pataki, and who elected even like congressmen like Peter King, although I guess there's still a Republican congressman in that district. Most of those people have left the state. Is there any way to get a Republican elected, probably not mayor, but how about governor? I've had that thought, and I mean, it has to be possible theoretically. I mean, I think Vermont, of all places, which is the most liberal state in the nation, has a Republican governor right now. Now, obviously, to be a Republican in Vermont, you have to be more liberal than one anywhere else in the country. But it is possible, and even in New Jersey, where I'm from, we had Chris Christie for 8 years. So, it would probably be a more liberal-ish Republican, but that would obviously be a big improvement over Cuomo.
Yeah, the thing about Phil Scott in Vermont is this is the guy who. His state administration after Thanksgiving said that they were going to ask the kids coming back from Thanksgiving vacation if their parents had anybody outside the household over for Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. Like, I don't think we'd ever see a conservative Republican as governor, but a more center-left one, which might as well just be a Democrat in the first place, unfortunately. But
there's this old story going back to the days when Mario Cuomo. The Cuomo brothers' father was first running against Ed Koch, the mayor of New York, the confirmed bachelor, shall we say, the congressman from the village. And supposedly Andrew Cuomo was the one who made up the slogan, vote for Cuomo, not I won't even use the word. Have you ever come across any confirmation of that?
No, actually I haven't. It's actually the first one I'm hearing. maybe for the sequel, Dumb and Dumber, I'll look into that.
Oh yeah, that's definite. The thing is too, he gets he somehow always is able to skate. I mean, I know he appoints these commissions in Albany to investigate corruption, and once they get close to anything, he abolishes the commission. But even when his third brother goes down on these big corruption charges involving the economic redevelopment projects in upstate New York, somehow the guy always maintains omerta, if I may use that Italian term in this context. Trump always has to worry about guys like Cohen. I think Cohen makes up stuff. But this guy I think he's still in prison, isn't he? The third brother?
I'm actually not sure if he's still in prison, but yeah, I mean, and I know obviously he's paying consequences, but like Cuomo and the rest of them, I unfortunately don't think we're going to see. You mentioned them investigating themselves, and like during the whole nursing home scandal, one of the reports exonerating Cuomo was he had his own health department commission a study to exonerate his own health department. So everything's kind of self-referential. It's I don't know, not really reason cause for optimism, unfortunately.
Yeah, and again, if only the New York Post seems to be interested in this kind of corruption. I mean, they're the only ones who report on the housing authority that de Blasio has just totally screwed up, and they're the ones that broke the story about how de Blasio was going to try to punish Trump by shutting down the ice skating rinks. How is that going to affect Donald Trump by shutting down the ice skating rinks that his organization manages? I mean, you're just going to hurt the people in the city. And it's like when I remember the first snowstorm. I had some relatives who were living at the time on the Upper East Side, and so de Blasio says, "Okay, I'm not going to plow out the Upper East Side until every place else in the city has been plowed." Well, those are the people that. They, number one, they deserve equal treatment, but number two, they pay all the taxes. If they leave, there's nothing left.
And we are seeing that happen. And they lost 500,000 people during COVID, and it was those who could afford to leave, and at the drop of the hat. And it seems like they're not coming back. So that's 500,000 people that have lost their tax base, and it's just going to be like a ripple effect. So they have less money coming in from them. They have to raise taxes than everyone else. Other people are going to leave to avoid those high taxes, and it's just going to keep feeding itself, probably endlessly.
They've created de Blasio and Cuomo have created a real estate bubble in South Florida. It's not a boom; it's a bubble now. There's a story on the front page of the Palm Beach Post. I want to tell you about it before you left. A guy. Last month, or a company bought a big mansion on the north end of Palm Beach for $26 million. They have now put it back on the market for $45 million.
Jeez.
Those are all New Yorkers.
Yeah,
they can't get out fast enough.
Yeah, I actually use Florida as an example in the book, and I pick Florida because it is the number one destination for those leaving New York. And the middle half of the book is all the the fiscal reasons why people are fleeing New York, and I do a pretty in-depth side by side of New York and Florida, and just the role of government in your life, kind of the bang for your buck you're getting, the quality of schools, infrastructure, and just everything else in daily life. And it seems that in New York you're paying pretty much double for services that are either equal or inferior to what you're getting in Florida. So why would you want to pay double when you can have better weather in addition to that?
I think the New York state budget is 3 times the size of Florida, even though Florida is slightly bigger state population-wise than New York. And of course, it's going to get nothing but bigger, and New York is going to get nothing but smaller. Not much of an empire anymore. Matt Palumbo, I look forward to reading your book, Dumb and Dumber, How Cuomo and de Blasio Ruined New York. And there's definitely a sequel or a paperback update for sure. Thank you, Matt Palumbo. Last summer, I had a dental emergency, and where did I go? Perfect Smiles. I've said this before, but was reminded yet again of what a perfectionist Dr. Houghton is. He is a veneer engineer and a world-class dental artist. Being on TV, it's important that I look my best. Dr. Houghton did that for me, and he can do it for you too. We're in a climate right now where a lot of people don't want to go into the city for whatever reason. Perfect Smiles is conveniently located in Nashua, New Hampshire, and parking is free. I was impressed to see all the state-of-the-art safety protocols they've taken since the virus. You'll feel safe and confident when you visit Perfect Smiles. To see for yourself and get your perfect smile, call 1-844-A-PERFECT-SMILE or go to HowieCarrShow.com and click on the Perfect Smiles banner. They've made a lot of changes since the virus, and really some of them have made it going to the dentist a more pleasant experience than it used to be. And you have to keep taking care of your teeth, no matter what else you let go by the wayside. Because when you got dental problems, everything else seems to pale in comparison. If you want to see my Perfect Smiles video, go to perfectsmiles.com. Perfect Smiles. Change your smile, change your life. I'm Howie Carr.
The paper boy with a big microphone.
Howie, we have 70